Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Chase Cromwell, thanks for being here, buddy.
Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate you being on the Mike Litton Experience.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So like we talked about, everyone has a story. And I believe your story, when people hear it, will inspire and motivate them. And so our passion is to help you tell your story, get it on tape, and get it out there so people will be inspired and motivated. You cool with that?
Yeah.
All right. So what we do is we talk about your life story. So let's start with your permission. Let's start at the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born in San Diego, I believe in Grossmont Hospital.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Did you grow up in San Diego?
I grew up in San Diego, yes. Both parents my mom was from Elko, my dad's from Lakeside, but as a kid we resided in Lakeside.
Okay, cool. So you grew up in Lakeside. You had mentioned to me that your dad was in rodeo, I think, is that correct?
Yeah, in his younger period of his life,
Okay.
From the time he was a little kid until I think he was probably in his late teenage years, he was still rodeoing.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's cool. So what did he do for a living when you were growing up?
My grandparents owned a big plumbing company called CPC Mechanical. They were one of the bigger construction companies that was developed in East San Diego at the time. And then over, at a certain period of time, when my dad started having kids, he started his own company.
Gotcha. Okay. So let me ask you this. So dad starts his own company. It's in plumbing. Did mom work?
Yep.
Okay. Where did she work?
My grandma owned a nail salon, and so my mom worked there with her sister and my grandma.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So growing up, who was the most influential person in your life?
My dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
By far.
By far. Yeah. No question.
Why would you say that?
I think he's just the man that anybody would want to be.
Okay.
He's just a man's man, and he treated his family good. And I'm a father of 5 kids, so just from the perspective of a father, he was just the best dad I could ask for. Just the way he was with us as kids, and yeah.
Awesome. So growing up, did you play sports?
Lots, yeah.
Okay. So kind of all of them?
All of them: soccer, baseball, football. I raced BMX. I raced motocross. I think that's probably it.
Kind of a high energy kid.
Yeah, skateboarding. I was an extreme kid.
That's cool. That's good for you.
Super extreme kid.
And you're still one piece. That's cool.
Yeah. I'm put together. Let's put it that way.
Or put back together.
I'm put back together. Yeah.
So did you go to Lakeside High?
I went to El Cap. Yeah,
okay.
That's the only high school in Lakeside. Yeah.
Okay.
My wife went there. My dad went there. My mom went to Grossmont High School. But my siblings all went to El Cap.
And you mentioned earlier, we had a conversation before all this, but you mentioned earlier you met your wife in 8th grade.
I met my wife in 7th grade.
Oh, okay.
Under a park table at the Thunderboats. And when I met her, I was 12 years old. I seriously, at that time, nobody thinks, you could fall in love at that age, but I did. And I did everything in my power from 7th grade on to let my parents switch me schools. Oh. And I did.
So she went to different school?
Yeah, I went to Greenfield in El Cajon, and she went to TDS in Lakeside.
Okay.
And I finally got my parents to let me switch over districts, and I got to her in 8th grade and then made her my girlfriend.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And it hasn't stopped since, right?
No, now we have 5 kids.
You guys have been together, you said 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So, so you go to El Cap. You were in pretty much all the sports, right?
Yep.
When you graduate from El Cap, what happens?
When I graduated from El Cap, when I was in school at El Cap, I had started. 15 years old. My dad's like, "Hey, you got to get a job. Whether it's working at the shop at my grandma and grandpa's, you can either sweep the floors, run the yard, but you have to work. So, and I knew that because when I was a kid growing up, my dad made, during the summer, he made me get up at 4 a.m. when I was, 10, 12, 13 years old and go to work with him. Not the whole summer, but I was used to working and I knew that it was coming. So, he said you can do something for yourself if you want to. And I started working at my grandma's in high school, sweeping the floors. And then I just was like, I don't like this. So when I turned, I was still 15 at the time. I went and worked for this guy that was dating a friend's mom. He was a detailer, a mobile detailer, and I went and helped him clean cars a little bit after school.
Okay.
So when I turned 16 and I got licensed, I told my dad that's what I want to do. So I had a little Ford Ranger in high school, single cab, and my dad had an old pressure washer at the shop. Gave me a pressure washer. I went and bought a bucket and some soap, and I remember my first wash was this guy, Andy Seuss. I'm still friends with him to this day.
Yeah.
But I worked in the street. It took me hours for like a 1 hour job.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure I did a good job. And my dad saw that I worked hard. So, my dad rewarded me and built me an actual detailing rig. My dad's super handy, so that kind of stuff was all right for him to do.
That's awesome.
And so all through high school, I was a kid that worked, and I still raced. I still had good grades. I still played sports, but it kind of led up to being out of high school. I had something to do.
But you had your own business, right?
I had my own business.
So when you were 16 or 15, you had started your own business.
I started that at 16, my own.
Okay.
I worked doing it at 15.
Okay.
But at 16, so when I left high school, I had something to do.
Yeah.
Kids were wondering, what do I do? And I did go to college, and my parents actually made me go to college, and I didn't want to. But after high school, I graduated. At that time, I quit racing motorcycles because I'd just gotten through like some of the most like horrific breaks that I had and during racing. So it became more of a hobby for me. So I didn't have to spend too much time practicing and doing race prep stuff. So I had more time to work. And so I was working on building that business. And, that business is very similar to this business that I'm in today.
Yeah.
The
service business, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Tons of customer service. People don't like it. You got to make it straight. What I mean? Sometimes I'd lose my ass at the end of the day because if somebody didn't like it and I had to go back and redo it, or they didn't want to pay me, then I never, it was about customer satisfaction.
Yeah. And
never did me any harm. I was like, I grew it very quickly.
Yeah. Always making it right.
Always made it right.
Seems like it's a theme through your life, right? Your dad always did that, so that's what you do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So with your profession, let's go back just a little bit.
Yeah.
So when you were getting up at 4 a.m. and working for your dad, what were you doing?
I was holding the fire hose.
Okay.
On jobs. That job specifically, I think I was like 15 years old. And during the summer, it was when the Dana Hotel down there in Mission Bay was being built. Mm-hmm. My dad made me work that whole summer. That was the summer I had to work all. But I'd get up, I'd either run the traffic sign or I would hold the water hose while they were cutting grade, and then they would cut all the trenches out for the utilities because that's what they did at the time.
Right. So not glamorous stuff, right? But real work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what did you learn getting up at 4 a.m. and going to work with your dad?
Sometimes you got to do shit you don't want to do.
Isn't that true? Isn't that true? And sometimes you got to do the rough stuff, right, to get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
That's
and
cool.
I actually taught me how to take an ass chewing too at the time because there's plenty of those when you don't know what you're doing and you're on a job with guys that need to get stuff done. I had my butt chewed out more times than not.
There's not a lot of political correctness going on that job site.
No.
Right?
No.
They're going to let you have it right between
And it's all
eyes.
my family, my uncle, my dad, the workers that saw me grow up as a kid. So I knew all of them. They all knew me. And the guys that knew me growing up would just laugh at me because they get the same thing. But I just,
Yeah. Well, having known you,
yeah,
right, and knowing your dad and all that, they're giving you the business probably more than they are anybody else. But you got through it.
Yeah, I was good.
You're better because of it, right?
I think I had to have been 13 years old, I think. My dad woke me up one summer and he's like, son, my guy's sick. He's not showing up to work today. I need you to drive my work truck to the job. Follow me to the job.
13.
Yeah.
No license.
Yeah, my dad. Yeah, I'll get into that why. My dad was just crazy back in the day. Yeah. But he woke me up. I didn't even know how to drive a stick shift. That morning I woke up, I had to drive an F-350 stick shift following my dad to a job in El Cajon. At that time, my dad had started his new company and he was doing hazardous materials. So we were going to dig up a fuel tank at an old gas station.
Wow.
So I followed him on the freeway at 13 years old all the way to East Main Street in El Cajon.
Wow.
Yeah.
That had to have been.
I might have been 14. It could have been right on the cusp. I don't know. It was right around. I was young. I didn't permit. I know that.
So you had to learn how to drive a stick shift.
Yeah.
And you had to drive this great big huge commercial truck all the way on the freeway, all the way to, and you're 14 years old. Wow, that's wild. What a great way to grow up though.
Yeah, it was cool. My dad, I had surgery on my stomach at 10 years old. Bad. That's why I remember this. And my son's 10 years old now. So my son does the same thing I was doing at the time. But my dad has a backhoe thing. If you guys know what kind of piece of equipment that is.
Yeah. Backhoe goes like this and digs.
Yeah.
That's on the back of the tractor.
Yeah. And he let me, my dad lives on 2 acres, but he would let me take the tractor, drive across the street and try and build jumps with this tractor. And
oh, cool.
I learned at a young age how to do that cool stuff that,
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mess more stuff up than I did good. But
that's all right. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a great way to grow up.
So back to being 13, 14 years old driving that truck, my grandpa used to wake my dad up in the morning before he'd go to work. My grandpa rodeoed too. At 9 o'clock, or my dad was 9 years old, and he would tell my dad, go load the horses up in the horse trailer, take the horses up to the Poway rodeo grounds, and I'll be up there after work, get everything ready for the rodeo. My dad was 9 years old with that responsibility, driving a truck by himself with a horse trailer behind it, all the way up to Poway, hauling horses for rodeo horses.
And they had to get
and
there
he had
on piece.
all the gear,
Yeah.
all the crap to be ready to go. So for my dad, he thought about it a lot more, I think, than my grandpa did. He knew times had changed, but he still let me live,
That's cool.
So
that's cool, man. That's an amazing story. So you graduated LCAP, you've got your own business, you're detailing cars.
Yeah.
What happens then?
I went to Grossmont High.
Okay.
So I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought I'm going to get a business, degree maybe. So I went to Grossmont College with my best friend Ryan. We tried to get every class together, and I went from a B average student to a C average student because, I spent a lot of time working. My parents paid for my college. It was junior college. I was taking I don't even know what it's called when you just take a full stack.
Generally,
yeah, but I was taking a full set of credits, right? At the time, every semester was a full set, if not more. So I was working, then going to college, and then getting off from college and going to work. So when I went to Grossmont,
full load is what they call it.
Yeah, I went to Grossmont and Queen Maca between the two for, I think it was 4 years. And then I finally got accepted into San Diego State to finish off my degree. This sucked because I got accepted to San Diego State and I missed the deposit deadline. So they automatically didn't let me join as a student. So they let me go through extended studies.
Okay.
And they're like, oh, your credits will still count. So I literally changed my degree to communications at the time.
Okay.
I knew this in junior college. And I finished all 3 years of San Diego State College. I'm now in college for 7 years through extended studies. Went to go to graduation time, and the dean said, no, you can't graduate. You were technically not a student, and you have to be a student for 2 years. So your credits will count, but you have to start over and go and do it as a student. I'm like, I've reapplied 3 times. This is when things were wonky back in San Diego State. They were accepting more outsiders than they were the people.
I remember that.
The local people.
I remember that.
And so I kept getting denied, and I was under a heavy workload at that time. I had bought a house. I was working. I was trying to get shit
Life
done.
was going.
I was moving, and it wasn't stopping.
Right.
And so my grades were I was suffering. I wasn't making the requirements to make it back into San Diego State. I had enough to graduate, but it wasn't enough to make it in at the time. You know what I mean? So every time I reapplied, I didn't have the GPA. I'd go talk to them, keep going through extended studies, you're fine. I kid you not, dude, I finished the entire required classes for the degree, and they denied me. And I just said, screw it, I'm done. I'm not going back to college. I felt bad for my parents for paying for all that time. Yeah. But, here I am now. I'm in this incredible real estate business and I don't even use that degree.
Yeah.
And I'll tell that to the whole world. Like, I went to college and it taught me good stuff, but I worked all the way through. I was one of the only kids that worked my butt off through college and took full loads every semester, worked full time, saved up and bought a house, my wife got pregnant when I was towards the end of college. Like, I had all this crazy stuff happening to me, and I never let it keep me down.
Yeah,
it is what it is. It's the past.
That's cool. Well, you completed everything you needed to complete, right? So you got all the stuff done, all the credits done, and the idea of going back for another 2 years is ridiculous. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
the only people that make up those kind of rules are academians, right? Or the members of academia, right? So we had this conversation the other day on another podcast episode. When you're self-employed, which you are technically self-employed, right? Being what you do now, and being self-employed at the time, the big conflict with college is literally designed to teach you how to be an employee. It's literally designed to teach you how to be an employee. And people who are entrepreneurs, you are one of them, right? People who are entrepreneurs struggle with the idea of being taught how to be an employee, because that's not where you're headed. That's not where you're going. I would submit to you, your entire life, that wasn't where you were headed. Right. So the college thing's great, and you learn stuff, and I still use stuff that I learned from college, but it didn't help me in terms of owning my Keller Williams. It didn't help me with the entrepreneurial stuff that I've done. It didn't even help me be a better employee. So I understand.
Yeah,
I got you, buddy.
I don't regret it at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it was well spent time. But
it was a good experience.
Yeah, and maybe I got more out of it than I even know. The unforeseen of it, to be put into the position like I was in college, like working as much as I was. I used to spend. I was young. I would drink a freaking bottle, maybe 2 bottles of wine when I get home from work at like 8 o'clock at night, and I had, essays and stuff to do for class, and I would stay up till like 3 a.m. doing it, go to class, leave, go back to work, and the next night, something was due in the other class, and it was just a never-ending thing. But it taught me how. I mean, I already knew how to grind, but it was a different kind of grind because I was kind of hit with some like life responsibilities. Right. You know what I mean? So to have so many responsibilities and not want to let your parents down at the same time and running a business, I did learn that specifically.
Nobody wants to let their parents down.
No.
Right?
Not me.
But here's the thing. I'll bet you there's a bunch of stuff that you learned from it. And most important was you got through everything. You finished all the stuff you were supposed to finish. And then they tell you that you can't graduate because you got to come back and do it for 2 years because it's a technicality, right?
Yeah.
And to your credit, you take that and run with it. You just go.
Yeah.
You just, you don't let it get you down. You just move on, right?
Yeah.
That's a big lesson that you learned in life.
Yep.
Right? How to handle that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Most people, they let it crumble, right? They're like, I spent all this time and end up they're stuck in their victim triangle, all that kind of thing. You didn't. You just kept on moving. You had a baby on the way. You got stuff to do. Yeah. Right? Life is going. Right? So you finish up at San Diego State. What are you doing at that point because you're self-employed, you have your own business? Are you still detailing?
Yeah. So tying back into that, like I'm going to rewind a little bit because I was 22. I was 24 when I finished college. I was 22 when I bought my house. Me and my wife, almost 23. So it was like we had a year left of college while we lived in the house. And she worked at Nordstrom's. We weren't married then. She was still my girlfriend. I was still detailing. And then she got pregnant and we weren't married yet. And then so a year after I bought the house, college was over. I had my baby in June 26th, my daughter. Mm-hmm. And from there, I was like, oh my gosh, like what a heavy load. Like I've got a person depending on me, not just now Cody, which Cody became my wife the same day my daughter was born. I proposed to her, had an officiant come in and marry us right there. So we left the hospital all as Cromwell's, but
that's cool. Man.
So I had a lot more responsibilities, and she wanted to be with the baby, and then, we needed the income. So at that time, I think that was the age I started. Yeah, that's the age I started doing construction.
Okay.
I got back into work in construction
Gotcha.
and detailing. So I had 2 jobs at that time.
Gotcha.
So I went and worked for my dad's friend, Bob Salas, doing underground, totally different type of crew work. And I was just a laborer, working my butt off, and then I'd get off work and I'd go clean cars, and I'd clean cars on the weekends when I had clients. And so we were trying to build up a bank account, which was impossible. Like, I kid you not, the entire time I owned that house, which is across the street from my office, randomly, but the entire time I had that house, every month, my wife and I struggled so hard that we ended every month with a negative balance, like sick to our stomachs. We always made it happen. I never asked anybody for money to help me. But we were struggling financially, and I was working 2 jobs. She was working her job. And then, a period of.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.